So was it going to be the same questions that you?
Like generally speaking, like it's hard because I know like when I reach out to all these people, they're like, oh, what are we gonna talk about? So I would throw in questions, but I don't know. It's hard because it's not like I don't want this to be like an interview.
Yeah.
So much. It's because it's just asking questions. I'm just asking all these questions all the time. I'm hoping that, again, like to capture that talk story magic.
Yeah.
And it's not usually one way.
Yeah.
You know, like it's not a
Speaker, like a speaker series.
yeah, like it's not an interview.
Where you have a host.
Because I feel like there's a lot of shows that are really good at that, and they look like they're just like the focus is more so on just what the person is saying, and like they have some kind of like great knowledge that people are like, oh, that's so interesting, or like they're famous, so it's like, oh yeah, but this is a little bit, I guess, different in the sense that I would want
Just recording a slice of life.
yeah, and I want the people who are I'm talking to also feel like they can ask questions to me too.
I guess something like how what is it? What was his name? Ron Howard? Was it Ron Howard? Or like the Joe Rogan Experience, and that English dude that brings in all the the celebrities and with all the big headlines. What's his channel called? He's one of like the most like richest YouTubers.
I know there's one that they talk about like is it like the Diary of a CEO?
Yeah, that one. That's the one. Yeah.
They have like a set and it's like a table and it's like it's
the Diary of the CEO. That's what it is.
Yeah, he's like interesting people.
Yeah, he's very well spoken.
oh yeah. Well, and I think after you talk to so many people, you gain all this like information.
So he becomes-
so it like builds more and more.
Right, because he can build upon what he's interviewed and use that.
Yeah, because how many people would talk to that many types of people, right? And they're all a certain like expert.
Right. Or has such an extreme take that he could really get in there and really understand what their take is.
Yeah. So I think. So I don't know if that's what this will be, but
No,
but
I feel like that's what you said you don't want it to be.
yeah, I'm trying to make it so that this is just a supplement onto the stuff that I already make. And if people enjoy it, then great. If they don't enjoy it, well, too bad. I'm still gonna make videos because I want to do this. It's one of those ideas where I thought about it for long enough, and it's like, how come nobody's doing this? And I'm like, well, or how come I'm not doing this? I'm like, okay, well, maybe I should try. And having support from, of course, my wife was great in this, because without that, it was like, to buy new stuff and to schedule and all that, it's a lot longer. Because when I go out and film, maybe it's like 30 minutes to an hour.
So you already have.
Yeah, so it's easier. But then with this type of setup, it's like more dedicated time, and it's just time away from family. So it's I think a bigger sacrifice versus like my other videos.
It's like going fishing at home where everything's given to you, carved out time, versus going out there shortcasting.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So so I appreciate you coming out and being a part of this first inaugural episode. And for those, I guess, for people that are listening or watching, if you can just share like basically a little bit about yourself, but more so, the reason why I want to talk to you is because we're both dads, local dads here, and we're both sort of in a similar boat, like similar situation with two young kids. So I think as dads, we don't really talk. I mean, maybe you do, but for me, I don't really talk to too many other dads or parents about like what it's like to raise kids. But I think we're all kind of going through similar experiences specific to like Hawaii. I'm sure there's universal things with parenting everywhere, but like specifically here. And so that's sort of what I wanted to like hear from you. Just some of the things like how it's been, being a dad and some things you look forward to and all of that. So if you can kind of share, your situation a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, Chris, thank you for inviting me out to breakfast. Yeah, I really look forward to it. The spam and the Portuguese sausage. So being a dad in Hawaii, well, just being a dad in general has been trying, but really rewarding. And I'm glad that I have someone like you to talk about these things, to provide advice and perspectives that otherwise I'd sort of be going alone and or just relying on what's out there in the internet. Being a dad in Hawaii is interesting in that what we didn't really care about before as in our singlehood, and we see all around us, even sitting here at Zippy's, when you see families, you see, oh, some annoying screaming kid. And now that's my annoying screaming kid. So we develop a level of EI, whether we actually mature and or devolve, because all of a sudden we have these emotions trying to manage a kid that we never knew we had, that we never knew we needed to employ in our singlehood. Now that comes out in full force. And yeah, so those are really the tough parts, the day-to-day management. But when you go to bed and you look at your kids and you're at peace now, you understand what all this effort, what all this means to me as a dad.
Yeah, I can definitely relate. And I think growing up here, you know, especially when you're a kid, right? Like you just act a certain way, and then you know your parents get on you, and you don't understand why, and you don't pay attention to like those types of things, like families and other little kids, or they just become a nuisance or become a bother. But then when you become a parent, now you understand, like that empathy now grows a little bit more, because now you're like, like that screaming kid, or like just that situation, you're like, oh man, I totally can relate, you know, to like the mom that has like 3 kids and they're coming out of Costco, or, you know, like in the restaurant, the one kid's having a tantrum, or like, I remember before kids, I thought, oh man, I would never let my kid watch on a phone, or like while we're eating like at dinner, and I know at a restaurant. But then now I understand. Like I understand, because when we went to Japan, that was like one of our tools.
Right.
So we brought it out just for Japan, and it was nice, you know, to have that type of like distraction, just so it wasn't constantly, you know, like them running around or acting up, you know, as the food's like coming out. And so now, as a more grown-up adult here now, I look at that, I'm like, oh, okay, like I understand. And I'm sure, you know, as we probably get older, we'll have more situations as the kids get older, the teenage and then, you know, adulthood for the kids, then can hopefully be more empathetic or sympathetic to like those types of experiences that, you know, like the kapuna or even our parents are feeling, right? And I guess that's just how life kind of goes. But it's one of those things that my life really changed with kids. It wasn't even like when you get married, it changes.
Yeah.
But when you have kids, it's like, it's so different. And like you're saying, the things that you're surrounded with here that you never even cared to even think about now become important, like schools or playgrounds or safety.
Right.
Like those types of things, I'm like, yeah, whatever, you know, it's no big deal. But now that you got kids, it's like, you're hyper.
We never notice these things, like playgrounds,
Yeah, I know.
even before. You're at a park and in your mind you want to do what you want to do, play soccer, play basketball, but you never notice the playgrounds and the kids on it. But now that we have young children of our own, that's all that matters. Who's at the playground? Is it safe? All these other things about just things that maybe make Hawaii beautiful, but also things that ail Hawaii becomes front of mind, because we want to protect our children. We want to set them up in a culture that is conducive for growth. One of the things that you hit on earlier, Chris, was about how we showed up as kids. And then, so my oldest is 5, my youngest is turning 3, my younger one. And along the way, I find myself saying, oh, I get it now, why I was like that growing up. Because coming from being first generation Chinese, and my parents immigrating here from China, my parents would work like 6 days a week, 12 hours a day. They come home really angry, just letting off, venting their stress. And I always said, man, I am not gonna be like mom and dad. Oh, food's here.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And oh, here you go.
Thanks. I got him. Oh, thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
I said, I'm not gonna be like mom and dad, but then now that it's my turn, I'm starting to realize it's not about not being like mom and dad. It's just a matter of kids will be kids. You will have your own stressors. I will have my own stressors due to work, just due to life, and sometimes it's instinctive to just project that out in the household because that's where you are, I guess, where you have your guard down, where you don't have to, where you feel like there's less consequences, and it's up to me to mature as a parent in order to catch that and make sure that I'm not affecting my kids in a negative way by projecting my own stressors there. So I think you hit on that really, really well. And along the way, I tell myself, oh, I get it.
Yeah, I had the same thing. Like, my dad was more like disciplined, so we grew up with like spanking and scolding and stuff. And I think as a kid, I never thought I was acting up, but I think looking back, I'm sure I did a lot of things that upset my parents, especially my dad. And like, I used to wonder, why is my dad so like tired? Why is he so like upset? Like when I don't listen, like why is it such a big deal? But now, like as a parent, I'm like, yeah, how come they don't listen to me the first time, or the second time, or the third time? Why do we have to keep saying the same things over and over again? And I'm like, yeah, now I understand like from my parents' perspective, like, yeah, it is tiring. It's like one of the it's probably one of the most challenging things about like working at this age, like if you have kids. Because I remember I heard this guy tell me, he's like, yeah, after I go to work and I do work, before I go home, I had to remember that I'm starting my second job, which is now to be dad and be in the home and be present with my kids and to give them the energy and attention that they deserve, even though I just worked a full shift of whatever my job is. And then like, yeah, that is tough. It's something that we stepped into, or for myself, we stepped into when we knew parenting, something that we chose. But I think that part of it, where after work, it's like, yeah, your kids, they're not thinking about that. Like, my dad's tired. But they're just thinking like, hey, it's good to see you.
Play with you.
Yeah, like that's all they want, And I'm like, oh, I'm tired, like
So
they have no idea what I went through all day dealing with all this stuff. But it's like, okay, well, that's really not for them. That's not their burden anyway. And I'm like, okay, I got to give them attention, and it's very difficult to not just be like, okay, well, you can just like here's some kind of device that can entertain you because I gotta relax, right? So what is your view or like policy on like screens and like things? Again, like for us, we only brought it out for Japan trip, and then now I think it's more like very selective restaurant trips, but that's it. Like they don't have it, but they do watch television, so they do watch TV and movies on like the actual TV. So it's not like they're void of any of that. But like, what is your take on like the use of that as like a tool, as like a parenting tool, or distraction? I don't know.
Well, it's similar, but before getting to that, it's stuck on my mind what you just said about starting my second job. A friend of mine just told me that yesterday.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he has a 6-year-old, and he said he holds a high title at a bank, and so he may have to work overtime. But he told his colleagues that, hey, when 5 o'clock hits, I'm starting my second job, raising my son. So please respect that.
That's really good. I think that's good to have that especially, well, I guess if he's like the boss or one of like the executives, to be able to put that and hopefully set that tone for the other employees.
Right.
Because I know like for me, I'm fortunate where my boss, he has kids, so he understands and he prioritizes his kids. And so he'll set aside like, hey, I'm doing this with my kids, so just letting you know. He lets us know, but it's like clearly he's not working all the time. He works very, very hard.
Yeah.
But he also makes time for family. And
That's wonderful.
And I think he shows it rather than tells it. He does it. And I think that's, as a dad who's working there, I'm like, okay, that makes it okay now for me to do it. And so I feel comfortable doing that rather than my boss is constantly working and he's ignoring his kids. But I guess that's what I'm supposed to do. And if I'm asking for time off, that seems weird, But because, yeah, he's setting that by example. So it's really good.
It's always a bit of a push and pull, meaning you try to look for an angle, a thread to pull on, and go that direction in terms of, okay, I think I can get away with this, in a sense.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks.
But I think in reality, it's just we have to respect ourselves, and this is something I'm learning along the way too, as someone who just entered their 40s, and about creating boundaries, and regardless of what my boss situation is, right? Just say I need to take this time off to care for my children because that is paramount to me. Now, Chris, going back to your question about screen time, it's similar. We use it as a tool, but not as a means to sort of replace parenting. So when it comes to iPads and the like, at the beginning we had our oldest on the screen a lot, and what we noticed was it changes his brain. So it creates this attention deficit, if you will, where he'll go onto one thing and he'll realize, oh, if I use my finger and I hit this, I'll go into something else, and I'll keep going until I find something that I want to watch, and I'll keep going and going. Yeah. And that's not how you and I grew up. We grew up with the TV, with having to sit through commercials, sort of in a way, but not intentionally exercising, like developing patience, and being able to sit through something. So while ourselves, it's a little bit hypocritical, we use screens as adults. For our kids, we try to keep them off of screens. And of course, we use screens only after they go to sleep.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, so to watch your YouTube channel, we do that after we go to sleep.
I think that's a really good rule. So,
yeah, and also like you, sometimes if they're a little bit too lively at a restaurant, then we'd have to use it. I know it's a little bit manipulative, but it's mutually beneficial. They want to see some of this content, and allows us to sit down and have a meal too.
Do you worry about like outside influences from like other kids, and like how do you navigate that? I mean, I know this sort of could lead into like a talk about public versus private schools, and trying to make sure you surround your kids with the best kids, right? Or supposedly the best kids. But like, how do you, like, I guess, what do you think about that type of influence that's going to start coming up? Because I feel like when they're growing up, you're their biggest influence. What you say, and probably mostly what you do, they're watching.
Right.
That's what's going to influence how they act. But now they're going to have all these new people who've been raised by all these strangers, and they will start. Those kids, their friends, will start to have more influence on them than at home.
Yeah, it does play right into that conversation of public versus private. And I was public school growing up all the way. And every time you hear advocates of public school, probably myself included, I use that whenever it's convenient. I say it builds character to be around a whole mix of people in various upbringing, whether it's just the crude language that's used, getting bullied, anything that comes with is more prevalent in a public school system. That, in my mind, having not been to private school, I think a private school would do a better job in creating an environment that they intend to create, which minimizes bullying and the sort. It definitely, I can see the balanced perspective. For both of my kids, they can benefit from making friends with all kinds of kids, and they may do things that you may not agree with, you as a parent may not agree with, but for them it just opens their eyes to what the world actually is, versus a bunch of middle to upper school or upper income families that that live a certain lifestyle, and this is what I want you to, this is how I want you to live. So yeah, there's definitely some philosophies for me as a parent to sort through. But what I'm thinking is, so I'm gonna set them up at a fairly affordable private school, both kids, preschool and primary school, Hongwanji over at Nuuanu. And the intent of that is to get them that quality of education, but also I think they have a pretty good mix of demographics there. So hopefully they can feel a little bit of both, and depending on how they grow up, we'll see. Maybe they'll end up better in the public school system, or maybe we believe that they'll do better testing into one of the bigger programs.
So as someone who graduated from public school, did you ever think that like public school kids are down here and then private school kids are all up here?
It's funny.
Or how has your interaction been with private school kids? Because I remember, because I got to go to both, so I got to experience a little bit of both. But I remember when I left private school, and then I was in public school and I saw the private school kids. They just seemed so much better in every way. Rich, smart, whatever. But I mean, obviously now as an adult, I'm like, no, they're not all like that.
Right.
So how did you view them?
There is so yes, growing up, not knowing much about private school, I always thought that these were the rich kids that had the better potential in life. And in many respects, having the means, having the connections, having your parents have those relationships will give you more opportunities. But in private school, I hung around the GT kids and the nerds, because I am one myself. And I saw that those around me ended up being doctors, pharmacists, engineers, lawyers. So they did just fine. And of course, what weighs in on my mind is, will my kids be like that? Will they be just fine, just like that? What allowed them, or what along the way allowed them to be able to be successful and not fall off the rails, if you will? And as I think about the whole notion of public school kid versus private school kid, even to today, in my early 40s, when I interact with someone who I know went to Punahou or Iolani, right? They could be in their 40s, 50s, or 30s, or whatever it is. The one thing that I realize about a private school, public school kid is they have a level of confidence in the way they speak that it feels different. It's not a polish. There is certainly that, but it's a level of confidence, like they can carry themselves being themselves.
I agree. I feel like you can tell as adults who went to private school. Like I work with, I'm just trying to think of my own office. Maybe half went to private school here. And I'm like, I could have guessed that. You know, like it is something about the way that they carry themselves, the way they speak.
I think one of the psychological things about going to a public school, having been my whole life to a public school, is you feel like there's a ceiling to your potential, right? And in a private school, they teach you early on that you go towards your potential and that sky is the limit, and that mindset kind of carries with you. So I can see, Chris, why you would think that too, right? How did you get here? If I am in your shoes, and it was really tough for me to get here. I had to take big risks that I normally wouldn't. And for me, I think a private school kid won't see that as a big risk, because they understand where they want to be, or at least that's in my mind. I think they do, and they would make the moves towards that.
Oh, wow, that's interesting. Yeah, I never thought about schools until, you know, like, obviously, once you go to school, I never thought about education really here much after I graduated. But with kids now, it had made me really confront that. And picking schools, like, you know, when we were doing GEs and like really thinking about what school, it was a big conversation, because, well, for us, we knew for sure that private was out from an affordability standpoint, but also just, I just felt like, I think he'd be okay at a public school, and I think that might be the better setting for him, actually. Went to a private preschool, but for elementary, we're like, yeah, I think he'd be okay. But now, yeah, just like I think when you have kids, it kind of reopens that whole discussion on education here.
Absolutely.
That as a kid, you kind of were in that experience, but now you're making the big decision for your own kids, and it's like, yeah, what do I actually think about? And it always like surprises me. And I was really looking forward to seeing what decision we would make, because for a long time I've been like, oh, public school all the way. I'm a big supporter. And then when it's your kid, you do think about it a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not that DOE or public is so horrible. I don't believe that. But it does make you think, especially if you could afford it. Like, that's the thing. If you couldn't afford it at all,
Right.
it's off the table. But it's like, you could maybe, because preschool is pretty expensive here too. It's like, you could swing it maybe, but I'm like, you know, like, on principle, is that really the best choice? And then also, it's what's best for the kid. And I think that's the thing that I didn't know before. So you can have everything lined up. I'm gonna send them to private school for sure, public school for sure. But then as your kid gets older, like that 4 or 5 age range, you're like, okay, what would be the best setting for my kid? And for us, it was public school. But there's that moment where you think, maybe.
The balance to that really is, you know, so as I mentioned, we have both kids going to Hongwanji, and it's an affordable private school, I would say, relative to the bigger programs. But now I'm on the opposite side of you, Chris, and I'm thinking, I think these kids will be fine, especially during these years, in a public school setting. Just G into a decent school. Just make sure you surround the kids that they're around are decent kids. And as adults, as parents, it's sort of a responsibility to build those relationships with other parents and in order to give them the best setting. So I'm on the opposite end of that, where I'm thinking, I wonder if I could have saved a bunch of money that could have gone towards a single family home if I had put these kids through public school for a few years.
Well, and that's a hard decision, especially when housing is tough, right? And you do got to think about, you got this upfront cost for education, then there's possible housing, and then there's also like college, and we're so far away from college, but like, I just think about those things. I'm like, okay, I do want better for my kids, but I don't know what that better might be. Is that private school? I don't know. I know for me, one of the things that's important is making sure that they go to a school where they can grow with their friends. Because I moved around schools, and it was tough. Those moves were really tough. And I just imagine I think that boy, it would have been nice to be in a same school. You know, I mean, I had wonderful friends growing up, but it was always changing.
Right.
And I don't want that for them. So if something were to happen financially, like it did for my family, or we went to private school, my mom lost her job, and now we had to leave. And we couldn't choose oh, we're just gonna graduate and then phase out. It's like, you gotta leave now because we don't have any money. So then we're gone, and we're ripped from that, and all my friends were gone. And again, I'm a private school kid. Now I gotta go public school with all these, bad kids, right? I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I do? And that was challenging to make that adjustment. I know life is a lot about going to new places. I did the same thing when I went to Colorado and all that, moved around on the mainland. You just gotta meet new people. But I think for me, the better would be, can we try to find a school path for him that's a little bit more linear, rather than mine, where it was basically jumping around. And again, it probably helped in some aspects, but also made it really challenging for me. So I guess for me, that's what I'm thinking about better. And it's not necessarily, the big three or whatever private schools are out there. And we've thought about it, and I will say that it's not off the table for the future. It's very unlikely, but it's not completely off the table. Right. And if it comes to that, we'll try to make sacrifices and figure out how we can do that. But again, it's more about what's the best fit for our kids, rather than a fear of, oh no, they're gonna get bullied, or they're gonna get badly influenced. There's so many bad influences. I remember among my friend groups, but I had to decide whether I'm gonna let that influence me or not.
You know, that's Chris. That's one thing interesting that I want to kind of touch on. The one thing that when we talk about public versus private, we tend to put it in the camps of there's going to be a mix of kids, as I mentioned, bad kids, and then there's good kids, right? And they're studious and all that. And the one influence that's really hard to avoid, perhaps in whether it's public school or private school, but I went to public, so I saw that as well, despite even being in all the gifted and talented and AP classes and all that, is laziness and procrastination. And I feel like that is one of the biggest inhibitors to the potential, well, my potential growing up, as well as now the potential for my kids. And of course, I wonder, would a private school setting, whether it's just being among other kids held to a higher standard, either by their parents or by the school system, would help drive that, albeit stress, but also that urgency to just do and just develop versus just cruising.
Well, I don't know, because I think some of the smartest kids can be some of the laziest kids.
That is true. And my friends, a lot of my friends were like that. 1,500 in their SATs back then. That's how it was scored, but they were lazy. So they went to a small college or didn't even go to college.
Yeah, I had a lot of friends, because I was similar, like with high school, being like the smart kids. A lot of friends that were driven. I don't know how they're driven. I mean, maybe similar background with you, like their parents, they came here and they just pushed education, so they just worked really hard. And they really made something of themselves. They went to Ivy League schools, or like very good schools, got great jobs. And then there's like, I'll probably put myself in this category, like was smart enough. I think I just figure out school, though. I think more so, I could just figure it out. So what that allowed me to do is be lazy at certain times, but also have to work hard to catch up. And I wish I was a little bit more steady. But I think it was during the college time, that's probably what developed the work ethic for me, because I'm on my own now. I don't have teachers, like, they don't care. I mean, they cared about me, but they don't care if you do the work or not. And as a teacher myself in college, I really didn't care if the kids did the work or not. I was there, I wanted them to learn, to want to do the work, because I cannot just hold a grade over them and be like, okay, this is what you're doing it for.
That's right.
Like, they gotta choose, because they're paying to be there now. It's not like they're forced to be there anymore. So I love the kids that were like motivated and they want, even if they didn't get A's and their writing was poor, I'm like, you're figuring something out here that's more important than just, are you a good writer? Can you get an A on this paper? It's like you're learning to care and want to learn and get better and participate, and that was more impressive to me than someone who's a great writer who didn't show up to class at all.
Right.
Wonderful student, like classroom-wise, but I'm like, you're getting it wrong, because you can't do this in real life. You can't just not show up
Right.
to work.
Right.
Even though you're talented and you know everything, you can't just not show up to work. You gotta go, so, for me, I think that was the years that I learned to fight or to overcome or to just change all the things that I learned and grew up in high school. 'Cause yeah, absolutely. I'd be the kid that's like, right before class, I'm doing my homework, just trying to cram it, right away, and that was busy. I had sports, and we live far away, so it's not like I just, walk home and do my homework. But yeah, I had to learn to study, learn to develop all these things, and yeah, I don't know if that came from private school time, where we had to where they really drilled us hard, or is that just, I just was like, okay, I gotta grow up already. Like, at some point I gotta grow up, because I cannot just keep doing the same thing. So I think, yeah, that's hard. But yeah, the laziness, I think it's pretty universal. I mean, from my experience dealing and interacting with people that even went to private school, it's still there. I mean, it's not like they're on it all the time,
You mentioned something earlier about, you were the kid that did the homework right before, so the procrastinating kid. But that you also had other things that was around you, like sports. So that's an interesting topic about raising a kid.
Oh, yeah.
And also here in Hawaii, maybe like especially here in Hawaii, that sort of social influence of you gotta put a kid into the I-9 sports and all these things when they're 3, when they're 4, so that they can I guess be exposed to all this. And I struggle with this as a parent. Everyone's putting their kids through soccer, through t-ball, and eventually I do want both of my kids to have exposure to these types of sports, whether it's through one of these club leagues, whether it's through PE, but just the stress of having all the other parents and their kids around you signing up for all these things, that's something that I'm still trying to wrestle with.
Oh yeah. So what kind of stuff have they done so far?
Tennis. So the older ones tried tennis, and at this point, at least, he's not so motivated to do tennis. So next week, we're gonna put him through some gymnastics camp. So hopefully, he'll find some enjoyment, just tumbling, moving around, jumping from a block to another block.
Okay.
And the younger one, I personally feel 2 going on 3, she's still too young to participate in something like something so regimented or that has a skill set that you have to develop at that age. I understand the exposure, but I also see other parents around me with kids of that age already putting their kids through I-9 and the like. So I say this in that it feels like at this point unnecessary pressure in my mind that I'm kind of bestowing on myself, but also along the way I can see the benefits, just as I look at you, Chris, as I interact with you, the benefits of someone who's been through team sports, who's been a leader in many aspects of life, what you could turn out to be. Despite being lazier, as you put it, in academics, you became coachable and you were confident, likely because your mom and dad put you through a lot of extracurricular activities growing up.
Well, so when it comes to sports, I mean, we've thought about that too. I think it's good if it's just for fun at that young age. And that's something that we've actually been thinking about now, is can we do it for fun? But as someone so I played pretty competitive golf, and then I played volleyball. Thanks. And I didn't start golf until I was about 9. And I didn't start volleyball until probably maybe 10 or 11. And that was just for fun. That wasn't even serious. And for golf, I would say I was able to get to a top level statewide. For volleyball, it was probably average, but I did play a lot. I really loved volleyball. I still love volleyball as a sport. But in both of those instances, I didn't play year round. I played junior golf, and I played competitive volleyball, organized volleyball. But I didn't play year round. And I think both of those things helped me to love those sports today. I didn't get burned out. But when it comes to starting early, I think there's this fear of, but everyone's starting so early, their kids gonna get so good, and sure, there are gonna be some standout kids who when they started at 5, they just became the Tiger Woods or whatever that is. But I think at that young age, that expectation just can't be there for that. It's fun. If it's for fun, then I think that's great. But for me, I can't expect them we're starting golf at 5. He's gonna be just as good as I am, but better. The thing is, you will encounter, or having played sports here locally, I've encountered so many kids that started so late, and they were so good. It had nothing to do with, I started when I was in elementary school, so that's why I'm good in high school. You could start in high school and be pretty good. Now, you would be behind on certain skills, but can't teach height. We really can't teach certain intangibles, mental toughness. And I think it's really hard to undo burnout. If the kid's burned out by high school, I think you lost them. And then you'll find that kid that, this is a fun sport, and they'll jump in and they'll have a good time, and they'll be good at it because they're having a good time, so many examples of this. I remember with golf, we grew up with this group of kids here, all very good golfers, and all of a sudden when we got to middle school, high school, I'm who are all these new kids? Where were you? You weren't you didn't grow up with us, so how are you so good now? You know, and I just kept encountering more and more of these golfers here locally, and like, so there's more than one path to becoming a really good golfer here. And then volleyball, same thing. I had friends, I just asked them to join the volleyball team because I'm like, we need tall people. They jumped on. They turned out to be some of the best volleyball players because, again, they were tall, but they just were able to learn. They just had fun. And it's like, I think, yeah, like, I don't know why people are, I don't know, you know, what their thought process is signing up their kids. If they want them to be good, maybe they played that sport. But I think if it's just to have fun, then sure, why not? But I see where that path becomes very slippery because if you start early, there's that pressure now to, oh, your kid's showing some promise. And then now there's like the next level. You know, it's almost like this, it's not pyramid scheme, but it's like this next level of cost and time,
Club
energy.
leagues,
Then you got to play,
tournaments.
and then and then you just think, oh my gosh, I'm spending so much time on this thing that I thought was fun. Meanwhile, you got to check in with the kid to see if they're even having fun. You know, because if they associate, oh, I got to do this because my parents invested so much, and then as soon as you're done 18, they're done, right? And they're never gonna do it again. It's like, you know, like that's too bad.
And even for the parents, when they realize they've invested so much time into what they think their child really loves, is good at, and is so immersed in, but then it robs the parents of that time of just spending or having them even try different things too. And yeah, I've met parents of children who stopped at a high level either right after high school or during high school, and I have friends too who were like that as well. And there's no wrong path. I mean, certainly at the end of it all, perhaps there is a future, and perhaps, like I mentioned about you, Chris, the discipline, the coachability and all that, it lends itself to your success in life. But I guess did it come with a cost is what I'm always kind of questioning.
Oh yeah, I think absolutely, because when you're so focused on one activity with that type of intensity to get that good, because when we were practicing golf every day, so after school I had no life. It was just golf, and then weekends it was golf during golf season. And then what my dad did was really great was for 2 or 3 months after the season, no golf. So it was just like over. And then we just did other things, which was like, it felt so good as a kid. I was like, oh, thank goodness, you know, like I enjoyed golf, but it was just nice to not have to go practice every day. Could go out with my friends, could be lazy, you know, like just have fun, you know, and even with volleyball, once volleyball season was over, I'm like, I'm done, I gotta go do golf now. And my more serious teammates, they're playing year round, like they're playing club, and I thought, oh man, really nice to play club and maybe get better, but I was like, I don't know, I like volleyball, you know, like if it got so serious, you know, where I'm doing it all the time, like, is it gonna get less fun?
I'd imagine a lot of us, we find our athletic or whatever passion, even outside of, after we graduate from high school. You could have done volleyball and golf your entire childhood, but maybe you find that, oh, this jiu-jitsu thing is kind of fun.
Yeah.
Or pickleball, right, as we get older. Is pretty fun. So it's a very important set of years in our life, these formative years of growing up. But you have another 80 years following that.
Yeah.
One thing about sports, it's just a small component of their overall life, unless they become a professional and that's how they make a living, or you know. But I just think the best things that my parents did for sports, besides pay for everything and all that, was they showed up. They made every single volleyball game, even if I didn't play.
Yeah.
It was embarrassing, to be honest. Like I had to sit on the bench and see my parents there, but they still came. But they showed up to every single game, and my dad for every single golf practice. He sat there and he watched us and he waited. He didn't just drop us off and be like, I'll be back in like 2 hours. You know, my dad always waited for us. And I think about those types of things years now later from all that. I'm like, yeah, like that showed to me that I remember that as a kid, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, I guess my dad really cared about the sports, you know, like even if he wasn't, you know, my dad was not like a yelling parent, he didn't really do that, but it's like the time that he put into, and now as a parent, I'm like, dang man, that time. Like, there's so much stuff I want to do as a parent, selfishly. I want to relax. I want to watch stuff. You know, I want to go do my own hobbies. But then I'm like, yeah, if when it comes down time to it, for me, I'm gonna try my best, hopefully, to remember what my dad did and be like, yeah, it was the time. That's stuff that I remember. I don't remember games that we won or lost. Certain tournaments I remember, but it was mostly like, yeah, my parents were there, and I'm like, just for them to be able to do that, I'm like, I want to make sure that I have a schedule that will allow me to do that for work, and also that I'm just there showing that support, whether they play or not, because it felt really good. As bad as it felt when I didn't play and they were still there, it felt really great when I did play and they were there, and I knew that they were watching, and that was back before you could really record anything, so it was like they had to see it live. You know, nobody would be like, oh, did you see this highlight of them? And you know, they could show it on their phone. It was like, it's none of that. It's just, you have to watch it live or you missed it, right? So I'm hoping that at least I can be there as much as I can. And it's hard with work.
Yeah. Now fast forwarding for us as parents, that's a really good take, Chris. As much as there's many intellectual reasons as to why you should sign your kids up with all these extracurriculars, and whether it's due to convenience, practicality, and things I mentioned about coachability, discipline, you know, building that, ultimately it should be about the parent-child relationship and connection there. At these young kid years all the way through being teenager, to be there to support, because that's what you remembered about all these team sports that you were on, that your mom and dad were there.
Yeah, and again, I don't know how my dad learned that or my mom learned that, but I guess it just was that they felt like it was the right thing to do, to try and make that a priority.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That's a really interesting take, because I think what I'm hearing you say is you're going to be present. Whatever it is they do, you can show opportunities, but you're going to watch and listen and ask, hey, is this something you want to continue to do? And that's not something my parents did. It really was, we're going to work to make money to put food on the table. You're going to be a doctor, a lawyer, engineer. Right? They don't care what it is that we actually like.
Yeah.
And that's how it was. But I think the approach that you're taking is one that really solidifies that strong relationship and just being present with both of your kids and just really understanding what fills their cup and moving towards that direction.
Yeah, and that doesn't have to be their job. I think that's one thing I also realized too, is what you're interested in does not have to be monetized. And today, with like social media and all this other stuff, it's like, it feels like you gotta monetize everything you do for fun. And that's hard, you know, like the things that I enjoy. You know, I used to play a lot of video games, and I started making video game videos, and I'm like, oh, this is not fun no more. You know, or even like the YouTube channel, I'm like, some people have asked like, oh, you ever thought about like full time? You know, like just doing this and just, this is and I'm like, it enters my mind, but I quickly push it away, because if it was my full-time job, it would be not fun. You know, I feel disconnected from the whole world. I need to have a regular job, so like, I have guaranteed income, but also just like, I get to have regular experiences. I'm not just a social media content creator person, but also like, I enjoy making the video and talking about Hawaii. I don't want that to be my job, because if I have to do this not every day, but like, if I have to make a video like twice, 3 times, 4 times a week, I would burn out and this would become not fun. Yeah. And that's a hard balance to find between a passion. So like, trying to make sure like, it's okay to sign up for like soccer or baseball or whatever, skateboard or paddling, and it can just be fun. You don't have to be an elite at whatever of those things. Just have fun. I think one summer I played PAL volleyball. It's like the police league here. Totally fun. I mean, I had played volleyball, and I mean, we were playing in high school already, so, you know, but I invited one of my teammates. We just joined this like PAL team in Kaneohe, and we're just gonna have fun. Who cares? Like, we don't have to run plays. Like, we're just, like, I don't care if anybody on this team even played volleyball before. Let's just have fun. And it was like such a nice experience to play with people who didn't come from that mindset of, okay, everything has to be so competitive and organized. It's just, you can just go out and just have fun, play volleyball. And winning is not the most important thing. It's not the only thing. It's really down the priority list. But that experience is still valuable. you know, and I hope that yeah, as these kids get older, I try to remind myself, especially when they show promise, you know, to like not just be like the instinct is just bang, private lessons and like
Right.
practice every day, you know, like
Are you still doing volleyball or golf these days?
no. Well, I dream. Let me say, I dream about volleyball almost weekly.
Yeah.
Because I played volleyball in college like 3 times, 2-3 times a week. So I was playing volleyball consistently, even though I was out of high school, and I was playing it all because I just loved it. And golf, I dream about less, you know. But I do think about like golf. I love watching golf. It's a sport that, you know, I'm thankful I was able to play young. And I wish I could watch myself play when I was younger now. Like, I wish I had recordings of myself because just to see like, wow, yeah, I was that good?
Something to be proud of.
Yeah. But no, I haven't played, but mostly just out of time.
Well, the reason why I'm asking is because when I think about my children, and I imagine it was the same with your children, who's their hero in life right now? It's you and mom. And if they get a chance to just watch you play casually, golf or volleyball or anything it is that you do, it's going to be so admirable.
Yeah, that's true. I just wish I had the time, you know, like, and I think that's the hard part. Maybe it's something that we can do later, not in a competitive way. We don't have to play junior golf or, you know, but we could just go driving range and just hit some balls and putt around and like just have fun because I remember that's how we first got started. Was my dad just took us to Bayview. I don't know, we got like some kids set from like Sports Authority or whatever, and it's just like, let's go hit around. And there was no lesson, just have fun. And I just think about, yeah, I guess that's what, I think that's why that sport, especially golf, it means so much. Like when I see local golfers and stuff, I'm like, man, I hope they're having fun. You know, like I know it's so competitive now, but man, I hope they're having fun and I hope they're enjoying themselves because, like, they're not going to be most likely a pro at this, and their golf days are going to be done competitively once high school is over. Maybe college, but most likely not college. So I'm like, I just hope they're having fun, you know, because then golf they can play forever, like the rest of their life. But yeah, I wish I had more time.
Hey, you better get it in now because we're all getting older.
Yeah, my body is not. Yeah, I think I can do it, but man, I cannot move the same way. I'm not as fast. Can't jump as high. Yeah, as you get older, it's like amazing. Your mind is just, you just think you can do it. And then before, when I was younger, I could do it. And I thought I could do it, and then I could do it. But now I can't do it anymore. Or it takes so much more training to be able to, like, yeah, I wish I could still play more often. But who knows, maybe again, like, the boys get interested.
Yeah.
Like, if they ever got interested in volleyball, golf maybe more casual, but if they ever got interested in like volleyball,
You'll condition again.
man, I know exactly the drills to do, and I'd be like, I'll do them with you. Because the thing was like what I loved about my coach in high school was he would do the stuff with us. So it wasn't just he standing on the sidelines and like, you know, blowing whistle. He would actually go and he would run with us, you know. And then the assistant coaches, they would actually do all the drills too. And I think it was a way for them to also keep in shape, but like, it was good to see that, right? Like, oh, okay, like, so they know how it feels.
It's awesome you remember that because you as a parent can apply that type of mindset to do it with them.
Oh yeah, and I think that's really important. I mean, it's a balance between being too hands-on, but then you do want them to see you, because they probably learn more from like how you act.
So what do you have going on for us today?
For the weekend?
Yeah, just today. What do you have going on?
We got church, and then after that, probably relaxing. I don't know. I think we might take him out to. Maybe we'll go scootering again. The boys had a good time.
Yeah.
But it's so scary because my older son's so fearless. So at Kaniwai, there's that ramp that goes down. It's like down to like the basketball court. He's just flying down there.
Yeah.
And he's flying like 1 foot off, and I'm like, you don't have to show off, you know? Like, you can do it normally, you know, but he's just like doing like a trick or something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. He did fall once. It was pretty bad. But
That's how you learn.
Yeah, but he didn't cry. That's the thing. I was surprised. He didn't cry. Like he got like strawberry and then the younger one is of course trying to copy.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's no way he can go down. It's way too steep. But he did. He was trying to work on his stopping, and he like, because the sidewalk kind of ends, so he's coming down, and then like he's trying to stop before the sidewalk ends, and he ate it a couple times because he went kind of over. But it was good to see him also trying that too. I don't know if he enjoys it as much as the older one does. Just different physical capabilities now. But we were also trying to like, even like yesterday, speaking of like too much controlling. So yesterday I was telling my older son, okay, it's fine you want to go down the hill, but you gotta learn to like do this skate on like flat first, because that's not well developed. He's trying to have fun. So he's flying down the hill. I'm like, he doesn't know how to brake. So I told him, okay, you gotta go around the basketball court, and then you gotta brake on the line.
Practice.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking, as I'm telling him, I'm thinking to myself, it's not fun. But it's that balance of, okay, I want him to learn this skill because I don't want to get hurt. So I'm like, oh, am I really drilling my kid in how to scooter?
Yeah.
You know, or I just want him to just go outside and have fun. Yeah. I'm like it's already starting, like the type of mindset. I'm like, I guess as long as he's having fun and it's safe.
Yeah.
But man, he was flying down the hill. I was just like so nervous.
It's a lot of encouragement and then a little bit of teaching. And when they get it, then it's a whole lot more encouragement thereafter.
So a couple of things, we can kind of close on these things. First, I was like, what advice would you have for new dads or just current? I mean, I don't know if you can ever not be a dad anymore. Once you have kids, you're just always gonna be a dad. But like, what kind of advice would you have, especially for like new dads or dads with young kids? You know, like, what advice would you have for them? And then, I guess in that same, like, what do you wish someone had told you before? So, sort of similar question.
Yeah, things I reflect on a lot, Chris. Still being a dad of young children, so I'm doing a lot of learning and reflections along the way, and sometimes it doesn't feel like I'm learning. And so when I seek advice and guidance of those who have kids already in college or already working, and a couple of takeaways for me. It is ultimately about my emotional intelligence that I want to let new dads know. We don't really know about ourselves until we are in that situation. And how we show up is so important because it imprints onto our children. When I think back, when my dad came home every night just yelling at me, I thought to myself, I would never be like that. And then, fast forward many years later, when I become a dad, I find myself snapping too. And I realize it's all emotional intelligence. So for me, it's understanding how to respond instead of just reacting. So picking your own battles, right? Your kids are going to mess up in everything they do, and they're gonna push the envelope and just grate at you and with everything they do. But it's all about picking your battles. And of course, to an extent, you don't want to let that all go and they become really spoiled or really bratty. I mean, you got to stand your ground if you're going to discipline. But you don't have to, I think to your example earlier, drill your kids on every single thing, right? Otherwise, they're going to be really kind of like shifty or flighty with everything they do. Like, oh, is dad going to get on me for this? And they won't want to do anything thereafter. So I think that's what it is. Just understand yourself and really understand what makes you tick in terms of what causes you to snap or react, and just pause and let that emotion subside and then respond to the situation. Yeah, I'm still learning. I still have a really tough time. But as the kid gets older, it becomes a little bit easier, it seems. That's the advice that I would give.
Yeah, I definitely can relate to that. I think I wish what I wish someone had told me before being dad was just it's such a unique position, and just a parent in general, but I think more specifically a dad. It's so important, especially like with boys. Like for me to see, I'm sure also with having a daughter, but like for boys, in the beginning, man, they want so much attention, and they like the physical stuff, and just to make sure I have the energy to be there and to do that, because that's how my dad like raised us. And my dad, a very smart guy. He doesn't seem to be he wasn't really like a physical like touchy-feely person growing up, but I know when we were kids we used to wrestle so much, you know, I remember, I mean, we're not supposed to watch wrestling as kids, but we would do all the moves and things, and we're talking like young kid time, and my dad would just, you know, grab us and he'd toss us on the bed and like pretend, you know, and it was always safe. But I just remember like that, just like getting in there and just doing that, and so I try to remember that with my kids. They ask like, oh, you know, like, can we wrestle and can we do all this stuff? I think it's one of the good things, or one of the things that you're really good at, you know, is that physical part of like when you're playing with like kids and stuff, is like you grab them and you know you do all these things, and I think kids really appreciate. They really appreciate that, like that physical part of it. Of course, you know, the words are also important, but I found like for my boys, the best thing, I mean, we could spend thousands of dollars, go Disneyland, go Japan, we'll have a great time. But sometimes my boys just really want to just wrestle with me for like 10 minutes. Like, no phone, no TV, like they actually just don't, well, they don't do anything else, no toys. It's just, Dad, can we just wrestle? And I'm like, sometimes I don't feel like it. And I have to remember, it's like, they want to actually do that with me now. I better like snap out of it and get to that, and to make sure that I can give them that attention, because that's the only thing that they want at that moment, you know? And I guess from the, to step back from that, it's like, to be the person that someone wants, they only want to spend time with you in that moment, that's pretty unique and special. And that doesn't happen too often, where someone just, all they want to do is, I mean, that's like being in love. Like, all they want to do is spend time with you. It's like when you're dating, it's like, oh, I want to just hang out with you all the time. But you have your kid that just want to do something with you. I'm like, wow, okay.
And it's fleeting.
Yeah, I know, it's not gonna be there forever.
At a certain age, they're gonna want to spend time with their friends.
It's gonna be the opposite. They want to get away from you, and then, yeah, they're so I have to try to remember that, and even for my softer moms. But I would say, yeah, I wish someone would have told me, like, it's gonna be hard, and you'll be tired, but there'll be these moments where you're the most important person to them.
Reading that one extra book at night before they go to sleep.
Yeah, the same book that we've read every night, and yes, but it's just those moments. It's like overcoming my own laziness, overcome my own selfishness, to really prioritize what they want. As trivial as it may seem to me, I'm like, really, you want to do this again? But it's so important to them, you know, and we don't understand that, or maybe we don't remember how it felt to feel that way when we were kids too. So, what are some hopes that you have for your kids growing up here in Hawaii? What do you hope for them as they're growing up? Because I assume you're gonna try your best. You're gonna raise your kids here, right? This is where your family is. This is where you grew up. But what are your hopes for your kids as they grow up?
It's at this point less so about what they'll become in terms of profession, how society defines success, but more so their character is where I kind of want to hope. I hope that they become respectful to elders, respectful to others around them. I hope they become kind, like just generally kind people, and are, when they see someone is in need, they would go and extend their help and ask. It's another reason why I put them into Honganji. That they said that they're really good in developing respectful children at an early age. So, and those are really important attributes for me as a parent. It doesn't matter whether they work a blue collar job, white collar job, whatever it is they do. They're a grocery clerk. I just want them to be kind and respectful people. And I think that in and of itself would go a long way in terms of their own mental health and mine as well, to understand that, hey, you know, at the end of it all, they ended up being all right.
Yeah. And how did you develop those things?
Well, I'm still learning. Sometimes I mistaken kind for nice.
Or I guess actually, how did you come to value those things? If you're saying, yeah, because you know, like, I'm sure I could ask a lot of parents the same question. What do you hope your kids here growing up? They're gonna say, man, I hope they get a good job, right? I hope they can afford to live here. I hope that, you know, they,
I got you.
you know, like there's a little more material stuff, like, and there are a lot, probably a lot of it is more of the long-term stuff. But you're talking about character stuff, so I guess how did you learn to value those things?
Just, yeah, I gotcha. It's meeting people in all walks of life, right? And you yourself would then reflect and see, oh, you're a really admirable person. Why is that? It's not because you're a retired person that worked at a factory, right? It's nothing to do with that. Maybe through those means they develop their character, but it's in how we interact, and you start to understand, like, oh, you're a wonderful adult human being. I want my kids to be like you, and what are those attributes that make you such a wonderful human being? And I think that's just along the way, you understand what's important in life and what isn't, right? And we always hear about those things, like you have a poor country in some other continent, and these folks are happy, and it's not because they have such great, you know, they don't have the means to be happy, but it's just their outlook, their mindset, and kind of that village mindset.
Yeah. Well, I think that's great.
What about for yourself?
I hope that my kids they remember. It's kind of hard to say because there's a big part of me as a parent that does want that material success. You know, I want to make sure they're okay. But I also realize if they have a lot of like character stuff, they're going to be okay no matter where they are, no matter how much money they make. I think in Hawaii we have aloha as the catch-all of all the feelings and the best of us, I guess. And there's actually a statutory definition of what that means. But I think the more and more I'm getting older, I'm trying to separate out what that aloha definition is, because you're talking about respect and kindness, things that I think people would categorize and lump in with aloha, what it means to demonstrate aloha. But I think that phrase is so commercial and marketed that I think it loses its like substance. And I would hope that we call out, like what you're saying, very specific things and characteristics of what it means. Like, don't just live with aloha. Like, what does that mean? Like, I would love for them to be grateful people, and I would hope that they grow up with like a certain level of humility, because rather than have to learn it. I had to learn a lot of humility the hard way, as my dad would say, the hard way. And that comes from thinking too much of yourself, getting maybe certain things too easy, and then when you actually got to do it yourself, you're like, oh, it's pretty hard. And I think humility is something that's underappreciated, and so I would hope that they learn that those type of characteristics, like you're saying, being respectful of others, being aware of other people, and be willing to do something about it. You know, because we're growing up with a lot of talking, a lot of people that love to comment and love to talk, and I hope that I'm more than just that. And I have to show that more with my boys, instead of just talking so much about stuff, being willing to actually do stuff, you know, to make those changes. If I'm going to complain or I'm going to criticize, think, okay, now I got to actually step in. I can't just, you know, comment from afar and expect other people to make the changes, you know, for us or for me. But yeah, I'm really hoping that they learn that humility, and also to be grateful for what they have. You know, one of the things that I realize now is all the people that made sacrifices to help me to get where I'm at. And a lot of it is family, a lot of it is non-family, and they helped me And as great as I think I've gotten on my own, I look back, I'm like, oh, man, I did very little on my own, you know? I take credit for certain things, but I did very little.
Definitely takes a village.
And to try to let them, to remind them that, you know, like I don't know if they're gonna inherit anything from us one day, but if they ever do, I hope they realize it's not just me and my wife that sacrificed to pay for it. It's like my parents, her parents, then the parents before it, like, to build up all this wealth, or even just a chance for opportunities for certain things, you know, and this applies to both public and private school kids. That I know so many private school kids that the only reason why they could go was because grandma, grandpa footed the bill. And I just kind of hope they remember those things, you know. And in the same way, I hope that I remember, I try to remember, you know, like the place where we live, you know, the car that we drive, right? Those are gifts, really. I mean, we're paying for some of this stuff, but like, the opportunity is not just on my own, and it's not something that I should be bragging about. Like, oh wow, look at me, look, you know, look how great I am. I got all this stuff, and I hope that that carries over, because, man, it would be very disappointing if in the future our kids are successful, but they forget what helped them get there.
That's deep. It's something for me to think about as well.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, it's. And I'm sure if you and me were to talk, heck, even 3 years from now, or even a year from now, but 10 years from now, as the kids get older, I'm sure we'll have different thoughts on parenting and priorities, and we'll see how it's shifted when real life hits against, you know, actual, like you think something, but then real life happens, and you're like, okay, how much did I actually believe that? I mean, because life happens, right? And I've definitely experienced that, where it's like I thought something, and then, you know, you get punched in the face, and now what do you think, right? It's like everyone got a plan until you get punched.
I think for a really good round 2 conversation.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why I think, like, you know, it's being a parent. You're gonna have to constantly. You set certain beliefs, but you have to also be willing to amend them and to change them over time, depending on your kid, situation, circumstances. But I do think there are certain values that should probably stay the same, and I think prioritizing, you know, what you have you hope for your kids. I think those are things that probably will never, no matter circumstance. I can't imagine that changing, right? You wanting to have your kids be respectful, to be kind, especially in a place where some people think it's becoming less respectful and becoming less kind, right? And if your kids are able to demonstrate that and have that as their character, they're going to stand out so much in the workplace. When they're trying to find a spouse, as they're building their family, they're going to stand out so much. But thank you for hanging out and sharing this. And yeah, I think, I learned a lot, and I appreciate you sharing. And I hope that other people enjoy this. And you know what? This can serve as a good reminder too. I mean, for just us personally, I can watch this, listen to it years from now, or even a year from now, on bad days. Be like, oh, that's what I said? Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's that. And one thing that this does is we need good people around us, and we need people to talk to about what it is that we deal with, and you know, what it is that we struggle with. And I think this conversation, you know, to have it on a very, I guess, normal frequency, it really helps.
Yeah, definitely agree.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks.
All right.
All right.
Take care.
Awesome.
Hello, hello.